Hi friends, it's Julie. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with a reading check-in video for you guys to let you know the books that I've read recently and quickly go over what I'm currently reading. So I haven't done one of these since like the middle of June, so I have quite a few books to talk about. July has been a really great reading month for me, but I am going to do something a little bit different this time. I'm going to break it up into genres, and I will leave timestamps down below so you can skip ahead or whatever if you don't want to go over a section. But I'm going to talk about fantasy, I'm going to talk about horror and thrillers, and then I have one kind of contemporary type book that I will talk about at the end. But yeah, let's just talk about some books. So to start things off, I'm going to talk about the fantasy books that I've been reading recently, and two of those are Nevernight and God's Grave by J. Kristoff. And guys, I am loving this trilogy so much. These books are so good. I completely understand the hype. I cannot wait for Dark Dawn to come out. It comes out in September, and I'm actually really excited that I waited until now to read these because then I could just binge them. I didn't have to wait over a year for the next book to come out. I'm loving these so much. They're just so well written. They are bloody, they are brutal, they are dark, they have some really hot sex scenes in them. There is just so much goodness in these books. I will say though, one of my criticisms that I have of it is at the very beginning of Nevernight, it takes a while for you to get used to his writing style. It is very different. It takes a few chapters because when I first started it, I didn't know if I was gonna like it. Like, it's very different, but I pushed through and I'm so glad that I did because I just ended up being sucked into this story. So let me tell you a little bit about the plot. In this book, we are following a main character named Mia Corvair, and when she is a very young girl, she sees her father be killed for treason against the government, and so she takes it upon herself to get revenge for her family, and she ends up going to this place called the Red Church where they train the best assassins in this world. And so in the first book, she's at this like cool church slash like assassin school learning all of this stuff, and that's what we focus on in the first book. And then the second book, it's more of like battle to the deaths, which was really good and very intense. And yeah, I'm so enjoying these. I can't wait for Dark Dawn. If these have been on your radar at all in the last few years, I definitely recommend giving them a try if you like dark fantasy. And I will say, these are definitely adult books. The subject matter in these books is definitely adult. When these first came out, I know people were categorizing them as young adult, but I would not at all. This is definitely adult material. So yeah, let me know down below if you've read these so that we can gush about them because I just need some people to talk about it with. And then the next two fantasy books I want to talk about were pretty big disappointments for me, honestly. The first one was Half a King by Joe Abercrombie. This is Joe Abercrombie's young adult like Viking series, and I read the first Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie a couple years ago, and I loved it. And I loved it so much because of his writing. His characters were fantastic. His writing was gritty and dark, and I loved his dialogue between his characters. His characters were just so well written. And in this one, that was not the case. This was definitely YA. It was so plot. There wasn't a lot of character development. I didn't care about any of them. Actually, I didn't really care about what happened to any of the characters because I didn't know them. Everything moved so quickly. And I'm not gonna lie, it disappointed me a bit just because I had loved Joe Abercrombie's writing so much in the first Law trilogy. So I'm not gonna be continuing on with this series. I think I'm just gonna stick to Joe Abercrombie's adult work that I know will probably work for me. And then the last fantasy book I want to talk about is Time of Contempt by Andrzej Sapkowski. This is the fourth book in the Witcher series. It's the second full-length novel, and this was just a disappointment. I want to love this series so much, guys. Like, I love these games, and I've been playing them for years, and so I know the world. I love the world. I love the characters. I especially love Geralt and Yennefer and Ciri. Like, I love those characters, and I feel like I know them, you know, from playing the game, so I really wanted to enjoy this book series, but I'm just not. Like, the two short story collections I enjoyed those quite a bit, but these novels, I feel like they're messy. Like, the way that they're written, like, this was told from so many different perspectives, like perspectives of characters that don't even really matter. We barely get any from Geralt in this book at all, and we did get some good Ciri moments, and I'm finding out more about her, but it all just seemed so messy when I was reading it, and I don't know if it's because it's translated. I'm just not sure. Like, I wanted to finish this book series before the Netflix series comes out, which the trailer just came out for that, guys, and it looks amazing. I'm so excited. And I really want to get through these books, and I think I'm going to push through them because I do want to know about, you know, Siri and all of like why she's so important and everything, but I don't really enjoy them while I'm reading them, and I'm really disappointed by it because I wanted to love these so much. Now moving on to horror and thrillers. The first one I'm just going to briefly mention is If You See Her by Anya Alborn. I did a full review of this, which I will link to down below so you can check it out if you're interested. So I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time talking about it. I'm just going to quickly say that this is a haunted house / like possession story, and I loved this, guys. Like, it has solidified Anya Alborn as my all-time favorite horror author. I love her books, and it's because I love her characters so much. Her characters are always so well written, and that was exactly the case in this book. And yeah, so good, but definitely check out my review if you want more information on it. And then up next, I listened to Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin. And the audiobook of this was amazing. I've actually never read Rosemary's Baby. I have watched the film a few times, but it's been years and years since I have seen it. But the audiobook of this was fantastic, and it's actually narrated by Mia Farrow, who plays Rosemary in the movie adaptation. And it was just done so well. I listened to this in one sitting. I had to drive in the car for like 34 hours in a few day period, and so I just listened to this entire audiobook. It was only like 6 hours, and it was so good. So in case you don't know anything about this story, it's about this couple who decide to move into this really nice like old apartment building. I believe it's set in the 60s, and they finally get a spot in this apartment building. And before they move in, they learn some strange history about this building. Some like really weird people live there, like people who are part of like satanic cults and witchcraft and like that type of thing. But they decide to move in anyway because that was years ago. Like, those people don't live there anymore. And they end up making friends with some of their neighbors, and then really weird stuff starts to happen. And yeah, it was so good, and the audiobook is fantastic. I highly recommend it. And then I read 2 thrillers that were pretty disappointing. The first one was An Anonymous Girl by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen, I believe is how you pronounce that. This was nothing special at all. I really wouldn't even classify this as a psychological thriller, which I think is what it is. I mean, what it's classified as. This is definitely more of a suspense novel. There is no big twist in it. It's about this girl, I believe her name is Jessica. I am not entirely sure. I can't really remember. It's a very forgettable book. But she decides to become part of this morality study that this psychology professor is putting on. And so she goes to this place and she has to answer questions on this computer. And then the person running the study decides that they want to make her now the sole focus, and they want to put her in like real life situations and kind of test her. And over the course of the book, obviously you find out why the professor is doing this. And yeah, I don't know. There was no big twist. And you just kind of find out things as the main character is finding them out. And it just, yeah, I don't know. It wasn't anything special. And I really didn't like the characters. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say about it. And then the other thriller I read was My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. And this one was another one that was just, it was just nothing special. I went into this one expecting it to be better than what it was because it has pretty good reviews on Goodreads. It was supposed to be, it's blurbed as like Mr. and Mrs. Smith meets Dexter. So it's like, okay, I could get on with that. It's about a couple who kidnap and murder women, and it's told from the perspective of the husband. And I listened to this on audio, and the narration was done pretty well. There wasn't any big twist. I mean, you find out some things about the wife, but there was no big twist, and it really wasn't. I was expecting it to be like darker and bloodier than what it was. I mean, Dexter was, he was a serial killer, and there's some pretty dark subject matter in that TV series, and so I was expecting more of that in the book, but really there's no like blood or really gory scenes or anything, which I was kind of surprised about. I think that if it would have been darker and bloodier, I would have enjoyed it more. But I just felt like it was pretty surface level, and yeah, I want to read a good thriller. I want to read a good thriller. I feel like it's been so long since I've read one that I've really, really enjoyed. So if you have any recommendations for me, leave them down below, because I'm really in the mood for one, but I don't know if I've read too many of them, so I know all the twists and turns and things, or what. But if you have any recommendations, I would love to hear them down below. And then the last book I want to talk about is one that really, really surprised me and how much I loved it. And that is Erotic Stories for Punjabi Widows by Bali Hasbal, I believe is how you pronounce her name. This book was fantastic. Like, I loved this so much. I listened to it on audio, and the audiobook was done so well. And I never would have picked this book up, but we chose it for our book club, and I'm so glad that we did because it was so good. So in this book, we are following our main character, who is this girl named Nikki, and she is a Sikh, or of the Sikh religion, and she lives in, I believe, London, or like outside of London, in a Sikh community, and she takes this job teaching Punjabi women how to write in English, and this writing workshop ends up becoming this erotic story writing workshop, and these Punjabi widows, they share these erotic stories that they have came up with, and so those stories are sprinkled throughout this book. But what I loved so much about it was the community of women and how they all come together and their bond is so strong. And yeah, it was just such a good, empowering woman book, and I think that's why I loved it so much. And also learning about the Sikh culture, because I'll be honest, I didn't know much about it, and I just found it really interesting, and the erotic stories that are mentioned in this book are pretty steamy. I really enjoyed them, and it was fun to listen to because the woman who was doing the narration, her voice would get really soft when she was reading these stories, and it was just done so well. I definitely recommend picking it up if it seems at all interesting to you, and the audiobook is fantastic. And yeah, definitely recommend that one. And now I'll just quickly tell you guys the books I'm currently reading. The first one is Kill River by Cameron Rubik. This is one of the books that was chosen for the Bloody Beach read-along, and this was a book in July that I was supposed to read, and now I'm like super far behind. But I'm really excited to get into this. I'm only about 40 pages or so far, but it's an 80s slasher book, so yeah, so far it's good. And the book that I'm listening to on audio is An American Marriage by Tayari Jones, and so far I'm really enjoying this. I'm about halfway through it, and yeah, I'll let you guys know what I think once I'm done. But I think that's it. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them, or if you have any recommendations for me, because I would love to know. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all again very soon. Happy reading. Bye.